Generation Alpha scares me. No, actually, terrifies me. They are the first generation to have every single modern commodity at their fingertips. Literally. The first generation who grew up with social media, iPhones, iPads, who grew up watching the most brain-dead memes, brain-rotting content on YouTube, TikTok and Instagram, making them the most asocial generation out of them all. Gen Alpha is the generation who grew up inside their homes, who grew up during the COVID era, when everyone was locked inside, and they have been used to this lifestyle since a very fragile age. Gen Alpha, in 2 words, can be described as the Mr. Beast generation. Squeaky clean, non-violent, non-threatening, the most harmless generation, and most importantly, the most obedient generation out of them all. Think about it, they have been taught during the COVID era to stay inside, follow procedures, put on your face diapers, wash your hands 10 times a day, follow the rules, be a good guy. And for the fact that this, in combination with them having access to the internet, making them susceptible to unfiltered information, to all sorts of degenerate pornography, all sorts of content, makes them desensitized to the real world in general, making them less likely to pursue a real romantic relationship, being satisfied with porn. Gen Alpha is literally a generation of mindless Teletubbies, the most devoid of passion for any artistical pursuit or any real ambition. They have zero ambitions. The average Gen Alpha kid wants to be either a streamer, an influencer, or to work remotely from home. Gen Alpha seem to look eerily similar with the fat people from the WALL-E movie. Remember them? Those fatties with spandex jumpsuits sitting all their lives in their floating chair. This is Gen Alpha. They're not even able to cook for themselves a simple meal because they grew up relying on takeout, food delivery services who work tirelessly for a shitty mega corporation like Uber Eats, Glovo, Foodpanda, or DoorDash. Imagine if tomorrow, let's say Russia or China, does a global EMP attack on the Western world, utterly crippling the power grid, sending us back to the 1920s. Imagine how Gen Alpha will cope with that. Who would deliver their shitty Dominoes whenever they're hungry? Do you expect them to cook for themselves? How could they cope without their favorite shitty Twitch streamer? How could they live without their favorite e-girl or their OnlyFans subscriptions? They would collectively do this. If there was a plot by the world elites, which totally is, to utterly cripple, demotivate, and demoralize an entire generation worldwide with COVID lockdowns, social media, brain rot, internet content, and porn, they totally succeeded. And this should terrify you. Because they will soon have the right to vote. And in 7 years, they will be the workforce. And I'm asking you, what workforce? Do you think those weaklings will build giant infrastructures like the GI generation or the silent generation built? I know I shit a lot on the boomers, and rightfully so, but man, they at least were tough, ambitions, for greedy purposes of course, but at least they had something going on. What does Gen Alpha has going on? The next dopamine hit. Gen Alpha is a generation of dopamine junkies. Literally dopamine junkies. And I know for a fact that the way they turned out to be, it's a deliberate effort by the powers that be, of course. I personally feel like the weight of the world is resting on my shoulders. My generation's shoulders, to be precise. Gen Z, like I said in this video, is perhaps the last hope the Western world has. Now, go watch that video and find out why I'm saying this outrageous statement.
Subscribe, you silly Billy!